This is a really exciting time for Michigan football fans with all the new rules and legislation that's being passed by the NCAA, where you can have unlimited staff members helping the team. A team like Michigan that has a big budget, they can hire a lot of guys. With Sharon taking over and what he immediately did with the recruiting department, hiring 8 to 10 more employees. He hired Ohio State's lead recruiting host person away and brought them to Michigan. They've upgraded their photo shoots. They've upgraded their barbecues, their food at their official visits. And that's what I wanted to talk about Michigan's recruiting class and sort of how Sharon Moore is doing things differently than Harbaugh. And I have a bunch of notes here, but I don't want to read them like a robot and just stare at my paper the whole time. So I'm kind of going to ad-lib a lot of this. But just going through the 24/7 sports composite and looking at all of Michigan's recruiting classes since Jim Harbaugh's been there. The last time Michigan had a top 5 class, and that's what it was the 5th overall class in the country, was 2017. Since then, 2019 they had the 8th class, 2020 it was 10th, 2022 it was 9th, and then the last 2 years in 23 and 24 they had the 17th and the 16th class. Right now, after being in the 50s for a while, just because they simply had, I think, 2 or 3 recruits. Now with 13 recruits, they are the 15th overall class, but I believe they have the 9th highest average player at like 91.11. I don't know how that's calculated, but 9th highest rated player, 15th overall class, and they have a lot of targets on the board. They have a lot of kids that are projected to commit here soon. I know in the 2026 class, they got Brady Hart to commit, who just won, I think it was the Under Armour camp MVP at quarterback. And that kid, I know he's young for his grade. He's only a junior, and he's young for his grade, and he's already 6'5", 190. So when that guy fully develops and he fully grows into his build, I mean, you're talking about a kid that's possibly going to be like 6'6", 6'7", 220 pounds. So that was a huge pickup for them. But going back to the 2025 class, you've got a lot of guys on the board here still for Michigan. And like I said, they have 13 recruits right now. I'm assuming they'll probably get around that 22 to 25 range. Looking at the top guys that they're pursuing, Andrew, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Balboa, the offensive tackle from Kansas. That's a kid they're really pushing hard for, and they should be. He's a 5-star. He's from Kansas, just like Sharon Moore. And his top school, according to the recruiting sites, is Stanford, because he places a very heavy importance on his education now. Is Michigan's education Stanford's? No. I don't know if any other FBS program has that level of academic, maybe Northwestern. But if you want the best of both worlds for him, Michigan would be it. And I know there's a lot of guys in Michigan's recruiting class that are trying very hard to get him on board. And seeing what Sharon's done with Zach Center, who was a 3-star, Trevor Keegan, these guys that were 3-star, 4-star recruits. If he lands a 5-star offensive tackle, that kid's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to be a top 10 pick. The way that they develop with their strength program, the way that Sharon coaches the offensive line, that would be such a massive pickup. And it could be, the building block for future recruiting for Sharon Moore. And I think crystal ball that surprised some people was Andrew Marsh, the receiver from Texas, who in the composite, he's ranked 48th overall. You have Jordan Young, who I think they're battling Clemson for, the safety from North Carolina. He's ranked the 70th player overall. Nate Owosu-Boateng, the brother of Jeremiah Owosu-Karamoa. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but Joker, who plays for the Browns now, who's an absolute beast. They're battling Notre Dame heavy for him, and the players at Michigan keep tweeting at him, keep adding him, keep texting him. They really want him to come. And the good thing for Michigan is they've got 2 guys at IMG already that are committed to Michigan. So being his teammates at IMG, they're going to be talking in his ear the whole year. Shamari Earls is a kid that's committed to South Carolina, a big corner, 6'2", 200 pounds. Who it looks like, he's committed to South Carolina, but what it sounds like from what we're hearing with On3 and 24/7 is that it's between Michigan and Georgia. So it's basically who's going to flip him. So I don't know if maybe he just committed to South Carolina too early and they're not offering enough money or what, but it basically sounds like it's between Michigan and Georgia to flip him and land him in their recruiting class. But that would be big for Michigan. I don't think they have a corner in their class yet. And to get a guy like that, I know Michigan's defensive backs coach told him, you would be our Will Johnson. And he's got a very similar build to Will Johnson. And I know that Earls liked that. He liked hearing that. He talked to the media about it. But that would be massive for Michigan. A couple other guys that are expected to commit here really soon. Andrew Olish, a kid from Pennsylvania, who everybody expected to go to Penn State. They thought he was going to commit there a couple weeks ago. Took his official visit to Michigan. He had crystal balls immediately after, and people were shocked. And he kept, getting interviewed and talked to people. He's like, yeah, Michigan just blew me away. Phenomenal school, phenomenal facilities, great hospitality. I like what their coaches talked about having me do. I know they sort of related him to Colston Loveland. That would be another huge get, composite 4-star. Some recruiting sites have him as a top 100 recruit. And swiping him away from another Big Ten power like Penn State, that's a massive win for Michigan if and when they're able to do that. It sounds like Jadon Blair, the 6'4 safety from North Carolina, is going to go to Notre Dame. His commitment, I believe, is on the 4th of July or somewhere around there in a couple days. But it sounds like it was between Michigan and Notre Dame. Sounds like he's going to go to Notre Dame. Wish that kid all the best. Absolute beast. If he does go to Michigan, that would be a shocker, but that would be a huge recruiting win for Sharon. Another kid that's going to commit soon, Hardy Watts. Looks like he's going to pick Michigan over Clemson, interior offensive lineman. Taz Williams, another receiver. I think Taz is from Texas. I know he's from down south. But he's a composite 4-star, another guy that's looking to go to Michigan. Kamar Archie, 4-star linebacker, looking like he's going to go to Michigan. And then Phillip Wright, a 3-star receiver who has a lot of big offers because he's a really good player, just a little underrated. But my point with talking about all these prospects and where the recruiting class is right now and the future of it, with all the people that Sharon hired in to help the recruiting department, I feel like with Harbaugh, it wasn't an ego thing. I don't think Harbaugh has a lot of ego, but it was sort of just the way that he is wired. It's, who I am, you know what I do. If you want to play here, I love it. If not, then all right, see ya. Sharon's a little different. He's gonna, if there's a kid that's not initially drawn into Michigan, like Andrew Olish, like Andrew Marsh, I don't think those are guys that would have crystal balls in if Harbaugh is still the coach. Sharon's gonna say, okay, well, I understand you're not interested right now, but let me show you what we have to offer. And let us welcome you. Let us, show you around campus. Let us show you all that we have. And he's going to be a little more persuasive instead of just, you don't want to be here? All right, fine. We don't care. He's going to continue to pursue. And I think that's really going to pay off dividends for Michigan in the future. I don't know. I would think this year, looking at all the other recruiting classes, I think Michigan's going to get a top 10, top 8 class, probably in that 8 to 10 range. And then based off of, having Brady Hart already committed in that 2026 class, and I'm assuming he's just going to continue to rise as a recruit and get a higher rating as time goes on, that 2026 class, and I know it's super early, I know they have one single commit, that could be a top 5 class if Brady Hart really puts his foot to the pedal and starts calling all the other top players around the country. And it's a little different because we've seen how well Michigan's developed, but now their strength coaches in LA, yes, they hired from within. They hired, his associates and promoted them. It's going to be a little different, but I still think they're going to develop extremely well. And seeing what they've done with not lower end talent, but not quite, the recruiting level of a Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, those schools, if they start recruiting in that realm, they could be a real problem for a long time. And I think that's what Sharon wants to do, and I think he's willing to adapt in any way necessary. So those are my thoughts on, Michigan's recruiting, sort of, how Sharon acts with it, his flexibility. I think the future's really bright for him if he continues doing what he does. Wouldn't be shocked to see Michigan as a top contender for a national title year in and year out, especially if they start recruiting at a higher level.